Ruthless, Ming the Merciless, across the galaxies, across the cinemas, and television.
Well, Brian, a spanking new Flash Gordon television series has recently been released. But the original movie series that started its global success leapt onto our screens in 1936.
If you really want to see a visual representation of Flash Gordon that is true to the strips of Alex Raymond, you should go to the Buster Crabbe serials.
It was, at that time, the most expensive serial ever made, its popularity constantly growing as it later regularly appeared on television.
It was the black and white television series. Awful, but so entertaining.
They were just really simple, stupid, not a lot of depth, but very fun, very fast.
My earliest memories of Flash Gordon is definitely those school holidays. You know, they were put on early in the morning. It was either a Tarzan film or Flash Gordon.
When I was a boy, we used to have something called Saturday Morning Pictures, and it was always a Randolph Scott Western or something like that. But the supporting serial was Flash Gordon,
Which we adored. So we all ran to the cinema, and when the episode would end, as the lights flashed red, you know that Flash Gordon was in danger. Then we would all enact the different characters and what would happen. And I always played Voltan. And I had then a strange feeling of déjà vu, that somehow it was part of my life.
I begin to understand.
I have this memory of sitting in a dark cinema on a Saturday morning, and it's this long cylinder with what looks like a sparkler out the end, whizzing across the screen.
Just this washing up liquid bottle with a tennis ball at the end with a sparkler. Cloak nearly in the back, just
really slowly across the screen.
and just kind of moving against a black background with a few holes in it to look like stars.
This was before Star Wars, so it was like the most amazing thing you'd ever seen. Look, it's a rocket ship.
Do you think somebody in the 1930s, when they actually saw that washing up liquid bottle going around on string, oh my word, is this real footage? Are we being invaded?
It's a surreal universe rather than a convincing universe. And I, for one, still believe it.
Ropey rockets and shuddering sets aside, Buster's Flash sprung into life with action-packed adventure and a simmering sexual tension that still stands the test of time.
Yes, he belongs to me.
You think of Buster Crabbe as this sort of potato-looking chap, you know, all muscle-bound and, you know, very much sort of the archetype, the stereotypical exciting man of the 1930s in America.
Are you all right?
But if you watch Flash Gordon, you'll see that actually he's quite compelling to watch.
Clarence Lyndon Crabbe II, Buster for short, was born in Hawaii in 1908. After his double medal win in the 1928 Olympics, he was a Hollywood natural. His swimmer's body, the perfect choice for a timely Tarzan remake. He sadly died in 1983.
He was a tremendous keep-fit man, and I thought he was sensational.
While Gene Rogers, who played Dale Arden, failed to ignite anybody's rocket.
Dale is quite intense as a girlfriend. I wouldn't want her anywhere near me.
What's the matter, Dale?
And quite honestly, his eyes are always wandering anyway. He's definitely got a thing for Princess Aura, isn't he?
As a youngster, we didn't like all that kiss-kiss stuff. You didn't want any of that. We wanted action.
Flash Gordon's universe was a perilous place, where everything and anything could go wrong, with danger lurking around every corner.
Like the comic strip, they're in parts. They are a serial with cliffhangers.
Get out of here! We're having a turn. Why not?
Cliffhangers, yes. Well, they're in pretty well every TV series that you come across.
You have to remember the episodic nature of Flash Gordon was to make you come back to the cinema at the weekend.
By law, every holiday they had to put a Buster Crabbe serial on.
Though I probably never had any summer holidays, really, because I was sitting in watching Flash Gordon.
You always wanted to tune in the next day because the fantastic cliffhanger they left it on.
Flash seemed to be in so much trouble at the end of each episode, how he would get out of it. Falling into a pit.
Or having a gun pointed at him and that gun would be fired, or he'd be trapped in a room that was filling with water.
What was going to happen? Was Ming going to succeed?
And that's why I'm so fat. I never had an exercising childhood.
After the Second World War, Flash was reborn as a new generation stylish hero. His playground, the ruins of the old.
I thought the 50s one was at a wonderful, strange atmosphere.
For the next few moments, you will be traveling back through time. The effect will be strange, possibly stupefying.
The great appeal of Flash Gordon is that it's all about going to new places and seeing strange new planets and meeting strange new people.
The 1954 serial Flash Gordon should work brilliantly, but it doesn't work.
Why? Why should that happen?
It didn't really explore as much as maybe it should have.
It's filmed in the rubble of Berlin, and so you've got these extraordinary backgrounds, these bombed out buildings.
And it's exactly that. It's so clearly the Brandenburg Gate, and you're going, no, you can't do that.
It lacks the charm of the 1936 serial.
Everything okay, Dale?
And he looks like he's brought his mum along for a ride.
And you'd watch it, but somehow it just made you long for Buster Crabbe.
Everything's gonna be all right. Now, come on.
And then in the mid-70s, a sort of young director called George Lucas basically says, I used to like that old Buster Crabbe series. That was quite fun. I want to make Flash Gordon.
But found that the rights were taken up elsewhere, and so that's why he did Star Wars.
No legendary adventure of the past could be as exciting as this romance of the future.
Here they come.
May the Force be with you in Star Wars.
Then, of course, it all comes full circle, because with Star Wars being such a huge hit in 1977, other studios would say, oh, we've got to come up with a science fiction film. Just as Flash Gordon had been created as a counter to another newspaper syndicate's hero, Buck Rogers. So 3 years after Star Wars, we get the Flash Gordon movie.
Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
I like to play with things a while before annihilation. Pathetic Earthlings! Who can save you now?
I thought it was perfection. I think De Laurentiis' Flash Gordon is perfect because it is total comic strip.
The man behind the Flash movie was Dino De Laurentiis, one of Italy's most infamous film producers.
De Laurentiis had already made Barbarella, which is the other big, sexy space cartoon. I mean, in many ways, Barbarella is the 1960s Flash Gordon.
I got him.
I think what I like about both the films is, another thing I like about both the films, is not just the kind of campness and all that, but there's actually a really scary edge to both of them.
In the deadly dollhouse.
He really just loved trash. He loved big, flashy trash, and he liked making money from it, with pretense that he was making something cultural.
He's a guy that's been involved with greats like, Knights of Cabiria, Serpico, interesting movies like Manhunter. But for every Knights of Cabiria, he goes, whoa, here's a Conan the Destroyer.
The man they call Conan.
A very creatively extravagant man. And I think that comes to the fore with Flash Gordon.
Go, Flash, go!
When you look at, say, the extravagant costumes in Barbarella.
Hello, pretty. Open fire!
There's a very definite echo in Flash Gordon of that.
The wonderful thing about Flash, and his outfits reflect this, is that he is very human. He's the best of human physicality, fighting the space horde. So we really have to see what his body looks like. And also, it's pretty.
The line between camp and, cool is
is quite blurred, you know. It takes a strong man to wear lycra and spandex and look good.
It's a kid's film, but it's got an enormous number of whips and boots and chains and thongs in it.
Well, I certainly think the film had a degree of sadomasochism in it.
Oh dear, how pathetic.
There is something about the art of dressing up.
Leather is very comfortable to wear, and in the winter it's warm, and in the summer it's quite cool.
I particularly remember Ornella Muti, who was the daughter of me. And she certainly set my pulse race.
It's extremely sensitive, like me.
If it had been made at Elstree Studios, they'd have probably called it Carry On Gordon.
Although not as successful upon release as anticipated, Flash Gordon the movie has become a much-loved and iconic landmark of modern science fiction that still thrills audiences today.
I am now of age, Screenfather.
By default, I've become a fan when my little bit comes up. You know, everybody screams and yelps and things.
There's Peter Duncan.
Peter Duncan from Blue Peter. You know, when you're an actor and you do a quick week's work, you know, way back in the sort of late 70s, you never really know it's going to keep coming up 30 years later.
Choose your passage into this world or the next.
All he has to do is fist some wooden anuses. And then, of course, gets bitten by what looks like a hemorrhoid.
This is the actual original stunt monster that was in the film that killed me and nearly killed Flash. As you can see, after 30 years, it's somewhat deteriorated. It's got all the workings inside there. It was a very tense set, I remember, and I soon realised that if I could act the sticking the hand in the hole reasonably well, I might get a longer close-up, which I think was, you know, has reaped its rewards over the years.
Squadron 40!
I don't care what anyone says. Brian Blessed's finest hour is in Flash Gordon.
Brian Blessed as Prince Fulton is just so over the top. It's frightening.
Brian, of course, was in an episode of Blake 7, so I knew him quite well.
I am the supreme power here. My word is law.
His performance in Flash Gordon was, how shall I put it, overwhelming. Yes. Not unusual for him.
The original Voltan had a great grizzly bear following him around. I wanted to have a grizzly bear, and Laurentis wouldn't buy that. Can I have a grizzly bear? No, kid, he's too dangerous. He's much too dangerous.
Anyone else has got guns, and for some reason, he's got a golf club.
To show how powerful you are, he's walking along and just going thump, thump, doing fine.
He's just whacking people. You can imagine the director just sort of going, yeah, Brian, you just have a good time.
When he says, Gordon's alive! Piece of genius.
With such a high-cam space opera, there was only one rock group on the planet who could create the soundtrack. Queen.
The Queen soundtrack is probably one of the best aspects of the film.
But Freddie was intensely proud of the music they'd done.
I thought Queen's music is beatific.
And of course, they did get a BAFTA nomination.
As soon as you hear that dun 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 dun, dun you kind of go, oh, it really bites you. Dun 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 dun. Flash! Emma!
Ah! He'll save every one of us.
Flash, Flash, I love you. Remember, 40 hours to save you.
How many dits are there?
Dun 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 can go on forever. Dun 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 dun.
Activate rocket jet Ajax.
Gordon's alive!
He saved every one of us.
And it's really nice he saves every one of us.
There are other bits that they shout out in that song.
Well, that sounds like plenty to me.
Okay.
Flash Gordon has never been slow to adapt to change and to face new challenges. In part 4, we will reveal a rarely seen Flash Gordon.